All right, what is up, guys? Welcome to, let's see, this is episode 70.
Yeah.
Right at episode 70. You may notice that our tone for this video is a little bit different. And this video is actually going to be maybe different than any other one we've done. We actually want to be a little bit more serious this week. We want to tackle kind of a challenging topic, and that is racism.
So in light of recent events, of what you guys have probably heard on the news, incidents related to what happened to George Floyd, to where it was an incident that was more motivated by racism, and we wanted to just talk about why us as Christians, we should be upset in a way of what happened to George. And we want to also talk about what does God and the Bible have to say about this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think as Christians, we should be the most upset about when we see racial injustice in our country. The Bible teaches us that all people, no matter what color their skin is, all people are created in the image of God the same way we are. And so when we see another one of God's creations treated poorly, that should upset us. We need to be the voice for those who are being oppressed, who are being looked down upon because of the color of their skin. We need to fight for them, stand up with them.
And we also want to talk about how maybe it's something that you guys, and even me and Jesse, we struggle with this too, is that maybe you don't really just think about it. Situations like this, you just see on the news, or you're on social media and you just keep scrolling, and because it's not you and it doesn't affect you. But we believe that silence is almost condoning it, especially with these actions happening so often. And if no one speaks up, then it's just going to keep happening. And so we actually wanted to encourage you guys and anyone who's watching this video that, hey, your voice, your one voice probably won't make a humongous difference. But what did we learn about last week? We learned about influence, and how if we put our influence in God's hands, and if we rally together, everyone who's watching this video and as a church community, and speak out against this evil, then we can make a difference. And so we want to encourage you guys to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of us, like you and I, we're white. And we know a lot of you guys that are a part of our youth ministry. Most of our church is white. And so it can be really easy for us to just not even think about this stuff, or to, when it happens, maybe just turn a blind eye because it's not affecting us directly. But that is not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is stand up for those who are being oppressed, who are being mistreated just because the color of their skin, because they are our brothers and sisters. All right, so for this part of the video, we're going to do something a little bit different. You know how usually when we watch the vlog in middle school, then we go to small groups afterwards and do questions? We actually want to do the question part in the video because this is such a challenging topic, and it's such an important topic that we kind of want to be a part of your discussion that you're having at home. So we're going to ask a question, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we want you to pause the video and maybe talk with a trusted adult that you're watching with, or maybe even get a little FaceTime going with a friend that's in youth group too, and talk about these things that we're gonna talk about. So, first question is, how would you define racism, and how have you maybe seen it happen firsthand? So to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I remember one of the first times I ever saw racism in my adult life was I was working at Walgreens, and I was talking to somebody there, and they were telling me about how their family was having turmoil because one of their family members, they were a white family, was marrying a black person. And they were all upset. And I remember being shocked. I didn't have words.
Yeah.
I was like, that that's still a thing? Like, are you serious? And that's what we were talking about, like how easy it is for those of us that are white. It's so easy for us to just completely miss it, that it's going on, and that's not okay. We cannot just, because it doesn't affect us directly, we can't just ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist. When we see things like this happen, we've got to remember that for everyone we actually see, everyone that becomes such a huge deal, how many more incidences like that happen that we don't ever see, that we don't ever hear about, you know? And so that's a time for me that I was like, are you serious? This is still a thing? Are you kidding me? So, pause the video, talk about it yourselves.
Okay, so question 2. Why should racial injustices upset us? And if it doesn't, if you don't get upset, ask yourselves, why not? Why doesn't it upset you? With these incidents of George Floyd and other situations that have happened in this past month, why should we be upset? And if you don't get upset, why doesn't it bother you? Pause it right here. So why should racial injustice upset us? We believe that we should be upset because Jesus would have been upset. If you look back in the Bible, and we have proof, Jesus, he didn't like when people were judged based off their behavior, based off their skin, based off of where they came from. Jesus didn't care about that, and he actually called that evil out of judging people and acting differently to that person or towards that race just for being who they were. Jesus was more focused on the person's heart, and that's something that we should be concerned about, and that's something that we should fight for. And so if there's anything happening in the world that people are being persecuted or there's prejudice, we need to be a voice to speak out against that.
Okay, so question number 3. If Jesus were on earth today, how do you think he would have responded to the recent events? If Jesus were on earth today, he, without a doubt, would have stood up for those who are being looked down on, being marginalized in our culture. There's evidence all throughout the Gospels of Jesus loving, caring for, and sticking up for those that the rest of the culture was looking down on. You know, there's a verse in the book of John where it says Jesus had to go through Samaria. So Jews were actually racist against the Samaritans. Like, they hated each other. And Jesus was a Jew. So you would think, okay, well, Jesus probably wouldn't have liked the Samaritans just because they were from Samaria. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the case at all. He actually did the opposite. He said, I want to go to Samaria because those are the people I love. The same as the Jews. There's no difference, like you said earlier. I don't see that part. That part's not as important. What's important is that you are a creation of my Father, and that's what should be important for us. And we should seek to do the exact same thing. The same way Jesus would stick up for those who are being treated unfairly, we should do the same thing. We should stand with them and say that this is not right, and we want to see a change.
All right, guys. Last question. Your small voice can be collected to be one loud voice, and we believe that's the beginning of change. So how can you, or your friends, or your family, but how can you speak up to add to our loud voice and call out this evil that is racism? So how can we speak up about racism? I think it's very different in everyone's situation. But some simple ways is to speak up on social media. We talked about influence last week. And if you don't think what you post makes a difference, it does. And people see it, and it leaves an impact on people. So post something maybe on social media, speaking out against this. Or maybe you have friends that joke around about race and it's not really funny. They take it too far, or they're trying to hurt someone else. Don't be afraid to speak out in that friend group, to be like, hey guys, this isn't cool and this isn't funny. Or maybe something that you can do is, if you don't have any friends that are of different race, maybe you befriend some friends of different race. I think the number one cause of racism is ignorance, and you don't know what you don't know. So maybe you go talk to somebody, and you can even ask them, be like, hey, what do you think about this whole thing? I just want to understand. And I'm sure they'd be so graceful that you asked them that question. So, and maybe any other ways that you think of that you can speak up in, do that. And I think collectively, if we're all contributing, we will make this world a better place, and we'll make it more Christ-like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is not a time for us to be silent as Christ followers. This is a time for us to speak out as loudly as we can, and stand with our brothers and sisters that are being persecuted.
The youth is the future. You guys are the voice of social media, of entertainment, of the years to come. So you guys, if anything, have the biggest influence right now. So utilize that and understand that.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in this week. And thank you for being a part of this conversation. Because it's conversations like this, and it's conversations like a lot of the ones that are happening right now all across our country, that are going to affect the change that we all want to see. So thank you for banding together and being a part of that. And we also want to say that maybe you're watching this and you have experienced racism in your life. And like we said earlier, that's something that Judah and I just we can't understand what you've gone through. We can't, but we want you to know that we love you, we are for you, and we are in your corner no matter what.
We love you guys. We will be back with the vlogs next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Until then, love you guys.